The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
Well, the meeting will come to order. Good morning to Justice Kennedy and Justice Breyer. We thank you for being here today. You both testified before this committee before, and you're back. I always wonder how you decide who comes before the subcommittee, whether you volunteer, whether someone volunteers for you, based on merit. That sounds great. But whatever the reason is, that we're glad you're here. We appreciate your willingness, and we always look forward to hearing from the court. This is one of those rare occasions where we have two branches of government that get together in the same room and talk. I think we all know that an independent judiciary that has the respect of the citizens is something that's very important to our country. The fact that you decide these controversial questions, obviously that's something that our founding fathers thought was really important. And while your budget is not as big as some of the other federal agencies, you have one of the most important roles to play, and we appreciate that. And outside of the confirmation process, this is probably one of the few times that the two branches of government get together and interact, and in my opinion, it's one of the most important things we can do, and recognize and respect each other. Ask my ranking member, Mr. Serrano, for any comments that he might have.
Thank you so much, and good morning. I've had the privilege of having you before the subcommittee, both as chairman of the committee, now as ranking member, and we didn't get to have you before us last year, so I didn't get to ask you the question that's always on my mind, which is whether someone born in Puerto Rico can serve as President of the United States. I realize, not being a lawyer, that I probably first have to get elected so it can become an issue. And I was trying to avoid that issue. So the question is out there. If you wish during your testimony to render an opinion, I think it'll be historic. And I think I got one last time, but I'm not going to ask again. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would also like to warmly welcome you both back. As I have said in past years, this is one of the rare opportunities for our two branches to interact. Because of this, our questions sometimes range beyond strict appropriations issues affecting only the Supreme Court. As our nation's highest court, many of us look to you for important insights into issues affecting the federal judiciary as a whole. We welcome you back, and it is, Chairman Crenshaw, a unique situation. This is one of those hearings that I always look forward to. As you can see by that camera, the whole world is watching us, so we will have what I know will be a good hearing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Serrano. Now I'd like to recognize Justice Kennedy for your opening statement. If you could keep that within the 5-minute, so we'll have time for questions, and certainly submit your written copy for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Congressman Serrano, members of the committee. Thank you very much for your welcome. Is this on?
It's green. Is it on?
Green.
Thank you. Justice Breyer joins me in bringing greetings from the Chief Justice and our colleagues. We have with us the principal statutory officers of our court seated in order: Jeff Manier, Counselor to the President; Pamela Talkin, Marshal of the Court; Kevin Klein of our Budget and Personnel Office, who's worked very closely with your committee, and the communication between your committee and our budget people is extremely valuable. And Kathy Arberg, our Public Relations Officer, and Gary Kemp, our Deputy Clerk. As you've both indicated, Mr. Chairman and Congressman Serrano, this is an interesting constitutional dynamic here this morning. We talk often of separation of powers and checks and balances, and we use those words interchangeably. Actually, they have a different thrust. Separation of powers means that each branch of the government has powers of its own that it can exercise without, and must exercise without interference from the other branches. Checks and balances means that you can't have completely separated departments. They have to work together, and this is an example of checks and balances. And we come here to indicate that as a separate branch of the government, we do think our budget request is of a high priority. The rest of the world looks to the United States to see a judicial system that's fair, that's efficient, that's accessible, and it must have the necessary support and resources from the Congress of the United States, saving with respect to judicial compensation. The Congress has always been excellent in giving the resources that are necessary for the proper discharge of our duties, and we hope that that will continue when you hear and consider the request of the Administrative Office of the courts next week. And with that, perhaps my colleague, Justice Breyer, has some opening remarks. Incidentally, Mr. Chairman, we're waiting for your case on the Puerto Rican presidency to come to us.
I mean the United States presidency.
But you also have to be 35 years old. Have you met that requirement? It's Article 2, Section 1.
I may double that soon,
Right.
but it may come up someday. You may get someone born over there running. But thank you for your semi-opinion.
Thank you.
Justice Breyer, do you have some comments you'd like to make?
Mr. Chairman, I agree with my colleague, Justice Kennedy. And I can't resist adding. I mean, any lawyer always asks two questions, Mr. Serrano, the ranking member. I would like to, and your question is, could someone from Puerto Rico become President of the United States? I know many possible people from Puerto Rico who could be elected, and I would modestly in this room, I will not say exactly who, but I would point out that lawyers always ask two questions. First, why? And the answer to that legal question, isn't Puerto Rico an important part of this country? Answer, yes. Second question, I won't answer it for you. Second question, why not? And when I say why not, I don't hear any answer. There we are. I've answered with two questions.
Thank you, sir. I think you just made the front page of all the papers on the island.
I did?
And in New York, too. Thank you.
Well, maybe, Mr. Serrano, maybe you could just run for president, and if nobody challenges that, it'll be fine. And if they do, then these good gentlemen will be happy.
Well, it's interesting, and I don't want to take much more time with this, because it becomes an issue when you have territories. But if you recall, the Senate, just to be sure, passed a resolution saying that John McCain could, in fact, serve as president because he was born in the Panama Canal Zone, which technically is not part of his state, but it's a territory. And the Senate actually passed a resolution saying, yes, he can. And I said, gee, I thought that would have to be the court someday that would have to rule on that. But I'm pretty sure, confident, and certainly from this opinion, I mean,
No, I have not given an opinion.
I understand. You haven't given an opinion, and no one here would write that. But let me just say that my exploratory committee is coming together in the next half hour.
You know, the likely explanation for the provision in Article 2, Section 1 of a natural-born citizen and 35 years of age was so that we would not invite a European royalty to come and be the occupant of the White House. Number one, we had to be 35 years old, so it wouldn't be an infant with a governor. And number two, born in the United States, so it wouldn't be European royalty. That's the probable reason. I wasn't there at the time, but we think.
Well, we'll get back to that issue.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.